The Jewish holiday of Passover, or Pesach as it's known in Hebrew, is right around the corner, and I mean right around the corner, which I don't even know how that happened because I could have sworn yesterday was January. I don't know. Anyways, it is coming up very quickly, and this is a festival that we celebrate every year in the spring, usually in March, April, for 8 days. This holiday is commemorating the miraculous events surrounding the Exodus from Egypt when God took the Jewish people out of their enslavement in a foreign land. In this video, I'm going to be covering the practical aspects of this holiday, what the core observances are, the what, when, and how of keeping the holiday, all the things that I would have found helpful as a new convert, someone who was not born into Judaism and had to learn everything from scratch. Passover, or Pesach, is one of those holidays that can be very daunting, especially to a beginner. So I'm hoping this video is just going to help you gain a better understanding of what the holiday is all about, the main things that you should know, and just help steer you in the right direction and to know what questions you should be asking about. So I hope it will be helpful to you, and let's get into the video. Okay, so first thing, what is Passover? What does it mean? What is it about? Where did it come from? What's the source for it? So Passover is a Torah commanded holiday. We can read about it in Exodus or Shemot chapter 12. And we read there that God commanded the Jewish people to keep this holiday as an everlasting statute. And it's written right there. We can go and read about it. I'll link a page below if any of you want to read that chapter of Exodus online. So Passover, or Pesach, history in a nutshell. As told in the Bible, after many decades of slavery to the Egyptian pharaohs, during which time the Israelites were subjected to backbreaking labor and unbearable horrors, God saw the people's distress and sent Moses to Pharaoh with a message, "Send forth my people so that they may serve me." But despite numerous warnings, Pharaoh refused to heed God's command. God then sent upon Egypt 10 devastating plagues, afflicting them and destroying everything from their livestock to their crops. At the stroke of midnight on the 15th of Nisan in the year 2448 from creation, which would be 1313 BCE, God visited the last of the 10 plagues on the Egyptians, killing all their firstborn. While doing so, God spared the children of Israel, passing over their homes. Hence the name Passover, or Pesach, which also means to pass over. Pharaoh's resistance was broken, and he virtually chased his former slaves out of the land. The Israelites left in such a hurry, in fact, that the bread they baked as provisions for the way did not have time to rise. 600,000 adult males, plus many more women and children, left Egypt on that day and began the trek to Mount Sinai and their birth as God's chosen people. So that is where the holiday comes from, the source for it. And if you're interested to go read, I highly recommend going reading the story for yourself if you're not familiar with it. So when is Pesach? This year we have English month of April 2023. Coincides with the Jewish months of Nisan and Iyar, and that's the year 5783. So here on the Wednesday, April the 5th, Nisan the 14th, you're going to have Erev Pesach. This is going to be the night of the first Seder, and you can see here it says you can eat chametz until 10:45 a.m., and then you're going to be burning it later on. The previous evening is when you're going to be doing the Bedikat Hametz, which is the search for Hametz. You go around the house with a candle, and there's blessings that get said, and you collect little symbolic pieces of chametz that you've left there previously. And then you're going to have the second Seder on the evening of the 15th. And Pesach itself, the whole holiday, is for 8 days. So it starts the evening of the 14th, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 8th day of Passover. The holiday this year ends at 8:32 p.m. Here on Nisan the 17th, which coincides with April the 8th, you're going to have Shabbat. So you're only going to have one Shabbat during Pesach. One thing that is special about Pesach this year is that it's a 3-day holiday. So you have the 2 days of Pesach, the 2 Seders. So a Seder here, Seder here. But the holiday doesn't end until Friday night, but of course that's when Shabbat starts. So we go right from the first 2 days of Pesach right into Shabbat. After the first 2 days, it's what's going to be known as Chol HaMoed, otherwise known as an intermediate day. So you have the first intermediate day, second intermediate day, third intermediate day, fourth intermediate day, and then the 7th and the 8th day are holidays. So you're going to have beginning the evening of April the 11th or Nisan 20. That's going to be when you're lighting candles. So it's going to be from the evening of this day, and then the holiday will end at 8:32 p.m. on the 13th. I just wanted to explain a little further what is an intermediate day. So you have 2 Jewish holidays that are longer, spanning multiple days. The first holiday is Sukkot, and the second is Passover or Pesach. Passover being one of these longer holidays, it's basically divided into 2 parts. So you're going to have the first 2 days and the last 2 days, which are going to be full-fledged festival holiday days. So first 2 and last 2, and then the middle 4 are going to be what's known as Chol HaMoed, or intermediate day. On the first 2 days and the last 2 days, we are going to be lighting holiday candles, doing a kiddush, and having a festive meal on both nights. Chol HaMoed are considered semi-festive, and most forms of work are permitted. What are the observances of Passover? What are the things that we do? In brief, there is 4 main things. These are candle lighting, Seder, not owning or consuming any chametz, and eating matzah. So for candle lighting, on the first 2 days and the last 2 days of Passover, you are going to be lighting holiday candles, much like we do on Shabbat, except the blessing is going to be different. It is going to be Ner Shel Yom Tov instead of Ner Shel Shabbat. You can find instructions for lighting holiday candles either online, or it'll also be in a Machzor for Pesach Machzor. So you can also look up there, kindling the lights or candle lighting, and you can find instructions on the proper blessing and stuff like that. Personally, I like to use oil lights, and this is what I use on Shabbat and also for the holidays. In addition to the small oil cups that I light, I also am going to be lighting a long burning candle. And this is going to enable me to transfer the light from that long burning candle to light the candles on the second night, because candle lighting is something we do on each night of the full-fledged holiday days. Not on Chol HaMoed, but on the first 2 days and last 2 days. When it comes to long burning candles, you have a couple different options. Basically, long burning candles come in different burn times. You can find 25 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, which is a candle like this. It comes in a jar. And those will burn for quite a while. So you can mix and match depending on what you have or what you can find available for purchase in your area or online. So that's something that we are going to be doing, is lighting the holiday candles on the first 2 nights and the last 2 nights. And also, because you have the one Shabbat in the middle of Passover, you are going to be lighting your Shabbat candles on the Friday night. So you're going to need the long burning candle for that as well. If you live outside of Israel, you're going to be having 2 Seders on the first 2 days of Passover. And if you don't know what a Seder is basically the highlight of Pesach. It is a ritual feast, and there's 15 steps to it. The 4 focal points of the Seder, it is eating matzah, eating bitter herbs to commemorate the bitter slavery endured by the Israelites, drinking 4 cups of wine or grape juice to celebrate our newfound freedom, and the recitation of the Haggadah, which is a liturgy that describes in detail the story of the Exodus from Egypt. During the Seder, you're going to have a Seder plate, which is a plate that is full of a variety of different symbolic foods that are going to be eaten during the Seder. So there's also, it's not just bitter herbs. Similar to Rosh Hashanah, you also have symbolic foods for Passover. If you have never attended a Seder, I highly recommend that you get an invitation either to a Chabad house or a rabbi that is willing to have you. It is such a good experience. I would not try making your own if you have never attended 1 or 2 before. You're just going to gain so much knowledge from just attending one initially. When I was going through the conversion process, this is what my boyfriend and I, now husband, we would usually get an invitation to either the rabbi's house or the Chabad house, where the rabbi would be leading a very large Seder. So if you can get yourself an invitation to attend a Seder, that's just really one of the best ways to get the experience in the beginning. If you are attending a Seder at a rabbi's house or the Chabad house, then you will be supplied with a Haggadah, which is basically the booklet that gives the order of what is happening as you go through these 15 steps of the Seder. But if you don't have one and you would like to own your own personal Haggadah, these are not expensive and they're available for purchase at pretty much any Judaica store or online. I will leave a link in the description box below if any one of you are interested. And that's just nice to have. So you have different publishers that publish these, and they're all pretty similar, but you might find that you have a preference for one over the other. To commemorate the unleavened bread that the Israelites ate when they left Egypt, we don't eat or even retain in our possession any chametz from midday of the day before Passover until the conclusion of the holiday. So what is chametz? Chametz means leavened grain. Any food or drink that contains even a trace of wheat, barley, rye, oats, spelt, or their derivatives, and which wasn't guarded from leavening or fermentation. This includes bread, cake, cookies, cereal, pasta, and most alcoholic beverages. Moreover, almost any processed food or drink can be assumed to be chametz unless certified otherwise, so certified kosher for Pesach. Basically, this involves cleaning our homes thoroughly as well as koshering our kitchens for Pesach, buying and preparing only foods that are certified kosher for Pesach if it's processed. If it's unprocessed, then it doesn't necessarily need a kosher for Pesach, Hechsher. And for this, if you don't know if you do need a Hechsher on it, I would definitely recommend getting a Pesach guide. These are published by several different kosher certifying agencies such as the OU, Star K, COR, MK if you're in Canada like me. And they publish these guides that you can either find online, or if you are part of a synagogue, sometimes they will order like a whole bunch of these catalogs. And you can just pick one up and have that to use as a reference. Highly recommend that you have one of those, that you can go over it, read it, to determine what needs a Hechsher, what doesn't. Some people will have a Pesach kitchen, which is a whole separate kitchen that they only use for Passover. Most people, and including myself, I do not have a Pesach kitchen. I have one kitchen that I clean it, I kosher it, and I have separate sets of dishes that are only used on Pesach. So I'm switching out my dishes. I am koshering the kitchen, and different communities have different standards for how they make their kitchens kosher for Pesach. Some communities will cover everything. Some communities will not use their stove at all, for example. We are Sephardic, so we have our own standards for how we clean, what we use and don't use. And I would highly recommend that you check with a rabbi if you're not sure what your community standards are, because there can be quite a lot of variance when it comes to cleaning for Passover. This video is not intended to be a guide on how to clean or kosher for Pesach. It's just meant to be like a more of a brief overview. So if you do want details on how to clean and kosher for Pesach, I will leave some links below and you can go check that out. And then any chametz that is not disposed of or consumed prior to Pesach can be sold to a non-Jew and then bought back after the holiday. These sales are typically arranged through your rabbi. So if you are affiliated with the community, I would inquire of your rabbi for that. They will be able to give you more details and guide you on that whole process. Instead of eating chametz over the 8 days of Passover, we eat matzah, which is unleavened bread. It is a mitzvah to partake of matzah on the 2 Seder nights, and during the rest of the holiday, it is optional. And you also have many different options types of matzah nowadays. You have the machine-made matzah, which comes square in a box. And you also have what's known as Shemora matzah. And this is what our family uses for the holiday. Shemora matzah is matzah that has been handmade, and it's also been specially supervised from the time that the wheat was harvested right up until the making of the matzah. Because it is handmade, it is much more expensive than the factory-made matzah, but it's basically like the gold standard of matzah. So if you can find that and you can afford it, it is ideal to use this, at least for the Seders. At every Seder that I have ever gone to, it has been this handmade Shemora matzah, not the machine matzah that comes square in a box. Again, different communities have different standards. Some, they will use Shemora matzah just for the first 2 days and then switch over to the machine matzah for the remaining days of the holiday. But yeah, when it comes to this Shemora matzah, there is a minimum amount that you are supposed to eat on both nights of during the Seder. So you want to make sure that you know how many people are going to be there if you are hosting your own Seder, and calculating appropriately. Depending on where you live, this Shemora matzah may or may not be available in the store. For us, we like to purchase it through our rabbi. He places a large order and then we collect our boxes from him whenever the order comes in. So that's one way to go about it, but you just want to make sure that you have enough and that you're purchasing it well in advance of the holiday. I heard my baby squeaking. I know you guys wanted to see the baby, right? Here he is. This is little Yosef Chai. He had his Brit and naming yesterday. Ima's little peanut. Oh, my little peanut. You know that newborn baby smell? It's just like, oh, so delicious. I have to go feed a hungry baby now, so I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Let me know in the comments if it was, and if you have any questions. I do my best to reply to the comments. Hag Sameach, Happy Pesach, and I will see you in the next video.